In this lesson, we're going to set up the driving left and driving right animations, and then also talk about the non-looping animations. Alright, so let's jump right into code. The first thing that we need to do is we need to get the driving left and driving right animations. So this is going to be driven off of the if the car velocity is greater than 1. Okay, so we're going to stick to that. It's going to go ahead and set the current animation to anim drive. Now, inside of this if statement, we're going to create another if statement. We're going to say if the input dot get axis and is horizontal. Okay, so if we're pressing the A or the D key, if that value is less than 0.0, so if it's a negative number, we want it to set the current animation to this. So current anim is equal to, let's just do 2 of those, or I'm sorry, 1 equals anim drive left. Okay. Now, if we're going to do another one, if the input is the other direction, so let's just copy this. So Control C and Control V. So if current or if get axis horizontal is greater than 0.0f, so if it's a positive number, which is the D key, we want it to set the animation to drive right. So we've set that, but now we need to set up the animation here. So if animation drive left, we want to do this. So let's just copy this code, Control V, and here we're going to say if current anim is drive left, we're going to say current frame clamp current frame drive left min and drive left max. And then also set your drive left max here because it's a looping animation, and then also here to return back to the previous. Let's do the same thing, Control C and Control V, and we're going to say this one is drive right, current frame drive right min, and drive right max. And then we'll do drive right max here, and then drive right min. Okay, so let's just do a quick test of this. Go into Unity, and we'll hit play. And now if we're driving forward, actually let me hit full screen on this. So if we drive forward, and then we can drive right, drive left, same thing if we go in reverse, both ways. Perfect. All right, so now that we have this set, we've got a great look to this. We're actually looking like we're driving. We've got some dirt track racing going. The movement is looking really great. Really happy with the overall speed and the functionality that we've created so far. I mean, it's not a super realistic racing game by any means. It's not supposed to be that. You know, 2D games are supposed to be fun and really exaggerated. So I'm really enjoying the way this is playing right now. It takes a little bit of getting used to at first, but once you figure out the controls, it's pretty fun. All right, so now that we have those looping animations going, I know we have other animations to work with, but what I want you to do in between this volume and the next volume is to figure out how to get the other animations. So, for example, if we come in here and we were to, let's say, save this script really quick. I want to see those warnings really fast. So I'm going to save this, okay? And then when I go back into Unity, it's going to bring up those warnings. What I want you to do is I want you to go through each one of these warnings, and it says sprite animation idle left is assigned but is never used. So I want you to set up that animation just like we did for the drive left and the drive right. Set those up so that way you get rid of all of these warnings. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the explosion min and the explosion max because these are what we call one-off animations. They play at the beginning of the animation frame and they play to the end and then they stop. So to do this, let's go into Mono Develop. Let's remove Unity there. And let's get started here. So we have our looping animations. So what I want to do here is I want to say one-off animations or non-looping animations. And let's go ahead and get our code ready here. So this is going to be pretty much the same if you really think about it. Whenever we set up the play animation, we're going to say if current anim, let's say is equal to anim explosion, then we want it to do this. So we're going to say current frame equals math f.clamp, and we're going to set the current frame, and then we're going to say explosion min and explosion max. Okay, and you're probably looking at me like, why are we typing this again? It's the exact same thing. We have to, but here's where it gets different. So what we want to do now is once it plays through this animation, it's going to play through just like it normally does, but now we want to say if the current frame is greater than explosion max, we want it to do this. Now before, with the looping animations, we would say, all right, set the current frame back to the minimum frame of that animation. But I don't want to do that this time. I want it to actually stop this animation altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Boolean variable, and it's going to be a switch that will turn on and turn off. And so this is the easiest way to handle a one-off animation. So I'm going to say explode equals false. Now, in order for current anim to be set to anim explosion, I want explode to be equal to true. So let's go ahead and first off, let's create this variable. So this is going to be under our animation control variables. Let me put it right up under here or something. Let me say public and explode. All right, and actually it's going to be a bool variable. So explode. And we're going to set this equal to false to start out. So then, under our handle animation or find animation, we're going to say if explode is true, then set the current animation to anim explosion. So underneath this, underneath the else statement, we're going to say if explode, and we could say is equal to true, or we could just say if explode like this. That means the same thing. Then we want it to set the current anim equal to true, or not true, anim explosion. Excuse me. All right, so now we have that set. We have our anim explosion, and this should work. So let's go ahead and go to save and go into Unity. And you'll see that we're whittling down those final warnings, so we only have 6 left. So take note of these and remember to fix those in between lessons. Just try it out on your own. Now, if you have some issues, we'll have script files in the next volume showing you how these are all set up, so you won't have to worry about that. All right, so let's hit play, and you'll see that we have the explode variable, and we have a checkbox here. Now, if I check this, notice what's happening. It's not exploding, for one, and it's just a little bug, and it's something that we're not going to worry about right now because it's going to change later on in the series once we start hooking up things like damage and things like that. So what is happening here is in the if statement. So to see if this is actually working, let's hit the W key. And it looks like right now my animation has stopped working altogether. We're set on 17. And let's see exactly what's happening here. And it looks like we may have a problem other than what I thought. Let's take a look at this and let's just go through a quick debugging session. Let's see, if car velocity is greater than this, okay. Okay, let's do this. Instead of saying else right here, let's do another if statement right here. Let's say if car velocity is less than 0.1, F, let's set the current anim equal to anim idle. All right. And let's see, if current car velocity, yes, that's all right. And then if explode, anim explosion. Okay. So we were having some issues with our if statements. It wasn't doing so well. So let's take a look at this now. Go into play, and you can see that the animation is now playing here. We're doing pretty well. Now let's hit explode, and you'll see that the animation plays and then it stops. It goes back to the idle animation. So perfect. Now looking at this, if we stop altogether, we're on the current frame of 17. So that's our idle animation. If we were to take enough damage and we were to explode, it's not going to work. The reason for that is because of the current frame that we have set right now. And let's take a look at that functionality, so that way we can make a note of it and fix it later on. Now, the reason that this is happening is in our code with this right here. So if current frame is greater than explosion max, whenever we are idling, current frame is 17. So that is definitely greater than the explosion max frame, which is, I believe, 16. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Okay? So we're not going to worry about that right now. We could come in and make a comment, and we'll say does not work if anim, or if current anim is equal to anim idle. Okay, so you could say bug or something like that. Okay, and that's just going to be a good little note there. Now, like I said, this is just a small bug. It's not something that breaks the game right now. Most of the time, the player is going to be moving throughout the race, so it's very rare that this is going to happen anyway, but it could happen, so we want to take care of it. Now, this will be taken care of, like I said, later on down the road once we start hooking up things like damage and health to the animation, because then explode is no longer going to be set to a checkbox like that. It's going to be set to something like health. So instead of saying explode, we're going to say if health is less than whatever, we want it to go ahead and play that animation. So we won't even really have a problem with that current frame. All right? Okay, so that wraps up the course here, this particular volume. So looking at our game right now, we've come in and we've built a very simple track. We've set up our player car movement. We've got it all set up to rigid bodies and physics, and we've got a pretty good system going here. I'm pretty happy with the way it's moving. We have our sprite animations system working for the most part. We have a few animations that we have to deal with that haven't been assigned, and I would like you to do that in between lessons just to give yourselves a little bit of practice. Now, if you can't figure it out, don't worry about it, because we'll have the scripts ready for that and all hooked up and ready to go in volume 3 whenever you start that. Now, the next volume, you're going to be going in with Kurt to learn how to create this sprite sheet. Now, this is going to be a really great course. He's going to show you some great tips and tricks on creating sprite sheets in Photoshop, his personal workflow as far as the art goes, and then he's going to get really in depth with the technicalities of creating a sprite sheet, as this sprite sheet has a couple of different things that we need to work around to make it work properly. Now, if you don't want to learn anything about creating the sprite sheet, you're more than welcome to move on to Volume 3, as we'll be picking up right where we left off from here. So I hope you had fun, and I'll see you guys next time.